Yeah, thank you for that intro, Javier. Yeah, so the focus of the demo here is to kind of show some interaction points between Shell and what Javier and all of the community have been doing with the Xamarin Community Toolkit. So especially over this next period where we're sort of transitioning over to Maui and things like that, we wanted to be sure to still continue growth and be able to continue, pushing the ability for users to, do more with Xamarin. So a lot of the work I've been doing here with the Shell staff has been ways to integrate in a lot of the Xamarin Community Toolkit features. So this demo more highlights like the TabView feature, but then there's additional things coming, like being able to customize the app bar, which I'll show you kind of how that's going to work. Yeah, so without much further ado, I have a couple brief slides that I'll go through just for people if you're not sort of familiar with Shell, and then yeah, and then just kind of jump right into a demo of some of the neat extension parts. And then yeah, Javier, just feel free to interrupt me if any. I have a second screen up, but I'll probably miss them. Hey, Pedro, nice to see you. If any questions come up in the comments while I'm talking, just interrupt me and I'll.
Yeah, for sure. If I find that there is any question that is quickly to answer, I will share with you directly. And in other case, I will just group all the question and ask you the question at the end of your session. So don't worry, I will be pending about chats in YouTube and Twitch.
Okay, perfect. Let's see. All right, so let me just kind of start from the slides really quick. Oh, hey, look at that. It's switching which screen's on which. Oh man, I don't even know how to switch that. That's hilarious. Oh, hey, look at that. It's almost like I shouldn't even have said that. I should have just ran with it. All right. So yeah, so kind of a quick demo. First, thank you to all our sponsors for sponsoring the Monkey Conf, and thanks for Javier for putting this on. So Shell is basically a way to simplify your the declaration of how your app is put together. So instead of having to kind of have all these separate components, you kind of put everything in a general app shell file that then sort of describes how you want things to work. So for example, here you can kind of just see you specify the flyout items here, which then kind of translates to your flyout view. And then you can kind of specify your content and like a tab and whatnot. So for example, here you can see like you have a flyout item, you've described the tabs, and then now you're basically ready to go. So instead of having to kind of bring together all these different concepts like a master details page, a navigation page, a tab page, multiple. This here would actually be like a master details page, a nav page, and two nested tabbed pages to sort of get to this point that you kind of achieve with these 8 lines of code. Yeah, so that's kind of the motivation point that we're sort of going with. The other nice thing about Shell is that it's sort of, because it's this idea of having a central app location for defining everything, instead of having these kind of separate navigation pages, and then like for example, currently in Forms, if you want to catch modal navigation, you have to subscribe at like the platform level. It's all very sort of split out. Whereas with Shell, everything is described through a central point within your app shell. So that's nice because you can basically catch and interact with all navigating that occurs within Shell when you're pushing modals, popping modals, switching tabs, everything. So it creates this very centralized experience, which is nice. So it lets you do things like during navigating, you can cancel, and we'll show some samples of some neat things you can do during navigating. So for example, one thing that we've added in 5.0, I think is when we added it, was basically the ability to do async navigating. So you can, if someone starts to navigate, you can delay the navigation until you want to say show an alert or some other variant, which you really can't do without Shell, which is really nice. So it also has a nice idea of passing parameters. So this is a really cool way of just kind of passing data between your view models. So you can basically attribute your view model, and then you navigate, and now the ID just gets plopped into your view model. So instead of having to kind of figure out how to wire together, so for example, if you want to go from one tabbed point to another tab point, or if you want to go to a different flyout page, like with master details, you basically have to switch out the master or switch out the detail, and then go from there. So this kind of, it gives you it lets you think more about, once you kind of put it together, you can kind of start navigating around, which is nice. And then Pedro actually has a PR out to be able to add objects to this. So basically attributes a dictionary on here and pass by object. So we've been going back and forth about whether we want to add that, but I don't know. I'm being stubborn and going to try to get that one for 5.0. So that'll be nice. Yeah, so a lot of this has, so the demo, so we'll switch to the demo now, but a lot of what I want to show here is kind of some of like the Xamarin, the shell plus Xamarin Community Toolkit world. So you can see on the left, you have a tab bar that this is using the TabView control from Javier's, what he's kind of put together. And then, yeah, so it kind of gives you a neat ability to like super customize the way the tab works. All right, so with that, let me just kind of start switching to a coded demo here. Let me grab my thingy. There we go. All right. Let me see if that font, let me make it a little bigger. If you need a bigger size, let me know. I'm looking at it kind of on my tiny screen here. So cool. All right. So this is a basic, here we have kind of a basic shell app, right? So this is just, I'll kind of walk through the way this is put together here. So this sample is basically from our templates. So if you go into 16.8 and create a flyout page, create a flyout from a template, you'll basically get this demo, the starting point of the demo. I've added a few things in here, but yeah, otherwise it's basically that demo. So if you look at it, you can see here, we have a flyout item, which is kind of just described by this content page. This flyout item here is a browse, which shows your items. And then here's like a logout feature. So this is kind of this is another thing I sort of want to highlight with shell. So like one thing a lot of Xamarin.Forms people do, you know, if they want to do some sort of logging out, is they swap out the main page, right? So shell kind of does this thing where you can sort of just hide and show your content, and then it just reacts accordingly, which is nice. So for example, you'll see here, all I've really done is bind is visible to these different elements here based on whether you're logged in or logged off. And then I'm not even doing any navigation here, like at all. All this is doing is showing and hiding items. So when I hit log out, it hides, it basically removes these items from the visual tree because it says, hey, they no longer want to be there. And now this is the only active one, which it then shows. Cool. All right. So let me kind of show a few other ideas here that so these are kind of some other things that are neat coming with 5.0. So I added this here. So this is kind of neat because what this lets you do, as I was saying, is sort of have these central places for doing navigation. So what we've added recently, this comes from kind of UWP development, is this idea of like a deferral token here. So what'll happen is when I hit go to second page, that's calling go to async to go to a second page. This here, this navigating on shell is saying, oh, okay, look, they're trying to go to this second page deep. This is now getting a deferral, which pauses the navigation and then displays an action sheet here. Do you want to continue? If I say cancel, it doesn't continue. Nothing happens. If I go here and I say yes, then it goes to the second page. So there's neat things like that that we're sort of that we're adding to keep elevating the developer experience here. So another cool thing that came with 5.0 is, and this is kind of a neat feature of URI navigation, is being able to express the overall change that you want to make to the navigation stack. So for example, what's happening here is navigate 2 pages, go to async. This is passing back ... /... So this is basically saying, hey, I want you to go back 2 pages. Now, if you click this, you'll see that you never saw that middle page. It went directly back to that first one because Shell is interpreting where you're gonna go, and it basically tries to process the navigation in the most direct way possible. So yeah, there's things like that start to come out of being able to be more expressive about your intent. So instead of having to, so for example, in non-shell forms there, you would basically remove the middle page from the navigation stack and then pop at that point. So, and it'll interpret anything. So instead of doing like a ... if you did some other sort of larger, URI, it basically tries to modify its state to match that URI in the most natural way possible. So that's another one with 5.0 that I'm excited about. So, but let's get here for some of the TabView fun. Let's see, I saw a badge control question real quick. So with the badge control is going to be a thing that's going to hopefully come with the Xamarin Community Toolkit. There was a rather large and awesome PR that was done. We unfortunately weren't able to get it done in time for Shell, like within Forms, but we're in the process of getting that moved over to the toolkit. So what the direction where this is going is that from this PR, I'm going to start creating sets of sort of community toolkit renderers. And these will be used on the toolkit to kind of add further customization. And I think they'll also add as a good learning experience for people to see sort of renderer customization. All right, so let's spruce this up a little bit. So first, let's take this. So all this is really doing here is this is adding a bottom tab for the page, which should show up soon. Did hot reload just get disconnected? Oh, wait, I'm on the wrong page. There it is. All right, there it is. All right, so there is the items page. Cool. All right, so here's sort of your normal tabs, okay? So you can kind of do a few things with Shell. Most of the things are kind of the same things you can do with like a tab page. So you can customize the color. So see, I changed that to purple. Ooh. But what if you want to start customizing things a lot more? So what I've added here is I've added this basically a Xamarin Community Toolkit TabView item. And again, this is all stuff that's in development, so it's not part of the toolkit yet. But this is, we'll do a PR for this and then kind of go back and forth with Javier to get it the best way in. But let's kind of look at some neat stuff you can do here. So basically what you can do is you can specify what you want for your tab bar template. So you could really put any content you want in here. So what I've basically put is a shell tab view. And all this really is a control that inherits from TabView. The only reason I created it is so that it has some sort of understanding of how Shell works. In the final version of TabView, TabView will understand that it's part of Shell and then be able to react accordingly. So if we save that in there, look, now we have Javier's tab bar. So the neat thing about this is that it's only replacing the bottom tab bar. That's it. It's not changing out the navigation up here. So the navigation up here is still content pages. All that's happening is it's swapping out the tab bar down at the bottom. And that's it. So now that we have this neat little tab bar down here, tab view, that lets us get a little bit interesting with some of the different behaviors. So what I've done here is I've bound the tab view to a data template selector, which basically lets me create different templates for the different tab items. So let's go into here. And since a lot of Shell works based on attached properties, we can grab, let me grab the funky toolkit, tab bar item template, static resource. So what I'm doing here is I'm specifying a template through an attached property on the content. Now what I'm doing is scrolling down because I don't remember the name of the template. All right, here we go, tab view item template. So as you can see, all this is a grid with a label that binds to the title, right? So nothing that exciting. Where are we? Here we are. So, all right, let's save that. Cool. And all this really did was change it to blue. So on the template selector, all I've really done is specify a default template. So here's the default template. This is the template that gets applied if you haven't specified your own. And then, yeah, here it is. So this is the template selector. So this is the default template, but then you can kind of specify out these different templates here. All right, but that's not that exciting, right? I changed it to blue. So now let's Javier this up, I guess I'd like to say. Let's pull in some of his Xam animations and whatnot. And let's take all right, so let's take this template here. Now let's apply this to the second one. Animated here. Ooh. All right, so that's going to change to purple. So now if you look at this, oh, I thought it could navigate to static source, but I guess not. So now what happens, watch, when you click it, whoa, spins, and then when you unselect it, it turns off. Ooh. So you can basically add any of these animations to it. So it's really neat because all this is really doing is using his cool X animation stuff. So I'm basically setting up a data trigger here, binding it to the TabView. This should be a TabView item, but I'm working with Javier on that one. But yeah, so this is just basically binding to a TabView. And when the selected index is equal to 1, so that's when this one is selected, it triggers these animations. So there's this interaction. So the interaction is when you click it, interaction, which is an interaction. And there's this exit action, which makes it go away. Ooh, so you get these, so you can basically do anything you want because the TabView is a cross-platform control. And if you've been watching this, I'm pretty sure you probably already saw some Xamarin Community Toolkit demos based around this. Yeah, so that's that's really neat. I'm excited to get this stuff PR'd over into the Xamarin Community Toolkit. Yeah, all right. So now there's also here a few additional features that we're adding, and some of this is going to really help the Xamarin Community Toolkit sort of integrate into Forms more. So one of the things, if you've ever used the TitleView control, and this is something we're going to look at. This doesn't work like this now, but one of the complaints of the TitleView has been the inability to sort of position your elements within the TitleView. So as part of this demo, because as part of demos, it's always fun to fix and build new things that you can PR. One of the things that we're doing, and this also comes into play with the app bar, because we're putting together a cross-platform app bar that you'll be able to basically plop into this top part that'll just become your app bar. So then that'll give you a cross-platform template that you can basically do anything with. So this sort of is setting up the ability for that work. So let's interact with this a bit more. So let's add a monkey to the page because every page needs more monkeys, right? So the neat thing with this is see kind of how it's off center. Ooh. So what we've done is basically utilize existing layout features to let you position it better. So see here we have this horizontal option center, and see this TitleView is specified at the shell level, so it's persistent basically. See, ooh, it's just there staring at you from the top. Probably a Gatsby quote I could make here, but all right. So, but the nice thing here is that you can do these different features with it. So for example, you can tell end. So this is if you want it to kind of write justify. And the neat thing here is see it kind of write justifies against the toolbar like that. And then this is the option here, which is going to really help out the app bar stuff, is you can specify, let me see. So I think you have to change the aspect on it to see this shine, if I remember correctly. Yeah, there. Cool. So see, now you can see that this is filling the entire view. So the idea here now is that we'll specify an app bar. So you can see it just fills it. It obliterates everything. So at this point, you can pop in whatever you want up here that you need to, like the cross-platform app bar. But because we're having kind of fun with this, let's kind of one of the fun things you can do here is you can add some of Javier's Xam animations, which is nifty. And you can add kind of, yeah, look at that. Because everybody wants a constantly spinning monkey in the app bar, right? It basically makes every app better. And then you can kind of just get silly with it, which is fun. Have like a giant spinning monkey. Ooh. Or you can just have its mouth spinning. Ooh. Cool. So yeah, I mean, that kind of gives you this neat ability to, yeah, so this gives you this neat ability. So now look at that. Look at all the spinning we have. It's like the 90s. All right.
For me, the rest of your demo could be just tapping and changing between tabs and continue watching the same animation one time and another time, another time. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's neat. So it's you can base this off of anything. So especially since all of these animations are bindable through XAML, you can trigger really anything you want to. And the Xam animation stuff does a really good job of letting you do this expressively. So and because kind of all your app is all articulated kind of in this one shell point, it's nice because that just lets you sort of correlate your app reactions with everything. So, for example, I could make it so when you click any of these things, like something changes on the flyout or anything like that. So it gives you this sort of one-stop shop area to tie everything together, which is cool. So let's see. Hopefully, let's see if a constantly spinning monkey gets distracting. So this is another thing. This was added by a contributor. Andrew added this. It's just kind of a quick thing to highlight a flyout footer. It's one of those things that's like, why wasn't that always there? But basically, so we have our flyout, kind of boring. If anything's boring, what makes it more exciting? Monkeys. Monkeys make everything more exciting. So now we have the monkeys. Yeah, so then that gives us, this kind of gives us this neat ability to customize like the flyout header or the flyout footer based on whatever kind of views you want. And then another additional feature here that we're adding in is, so this is something that will hopefully make it into Xamarin.Forms 5.0, but if not, we'll get it into the toolkit. Is basically the ability to swap out the entire content section here. So, all right, so this has been a bit. We'll make sure this works with the. We'll make sure this works with the. With the hot reload, it's been a little bit quirky, but the idea, one of the things that we were sort of working towards here with the flyout content was the ability to kind of swap out, because right now the content here is very, it's very native, so you can't really kind of customize out these things. But like one thing that we're doing here, for example, is you can swap out this content, which is neat. Let's see if this survives hot reload. It might crash. There. So you see, it's kind of funny because nothing happened. So on some level, it's kind of like, did he really do anything? But yeah, this is basically, if you look at this navigation view list, all this really is a bindable layout that's using like a stack layout to do all of its features. So this is kind of the direction that we wanted to take this flyout thing. And so that lets you do a decent amount of cross-platform stuff and kind of specify anything you want. So yeah, so that'll be neat. And I think you can, let's see if this survives hot reload. This is definitely some of the stuff's new. So let's see if this swaps out correctly. Sometimes with the hot reload, making sure No, okay, it didn't. I promised that it would be there. But yeah, so it's the hot reload isn't in kind of adding the view in. But yeah, I mean, you can basically kind of put whatever content you want in there, which I know has been a big ask. So the nice thing about that is that you can sort of now customize whatever the whatever you need to in kind of in this area. Yeah, so that's the thing, is just kind of like bring as much customization points as we can here. Yeah. All right, so let's see. So that's kind of like the Xamarin Toolkit aspect of things. Let me bring up, let's kind of pivot to the Duo stuff real quick. So you can kind of see play from current slide. So let me kind of do a quick, oh, you kind of wish it would remember your settings, huh? Hold on. There we go. All right. Surface Duo. So the Surface Duo is a nice little device. Yeah, a nice little handy device, a nice productivity device. I have one that they let me use. It's fun. So we developed this toolkit, the Xamarin.Forms dual screen SDK, which has a few different features. So basically, all you have to do is add the Xamarin.Forms NuGet to your project, init the dual screen service in your activity, which we're all sort of used to when you're kind of adding libraries, and then update your configuration file here. So basically what this is doing is this is that idea with Android, where like with Android, by default, it'll always regenerate your activity. So this is making it so when you change positions on the dual screen, it doesn't sort of regenerate your activity. Yeah, so we've kind of provided a nice set of APIs that lets you interact with the dual screen device. And basically, the nice thing about it is that it sort of gives you perspective over perspective over any element as to its position within the dual screen, within the Duo. So what you can do is you can basically pass in a dual screen info to, like, you can pass a grid or a stack layout or anything of that nature, and it'll tell you the position of that element relative to, so like the spanning bounds tells you the size of the visible area on each side. The span mode kind of tells you how it's spanned across that central point. And then you can kind of do things like you can rack it off the changes, or you can get the hinge angle, which is cool. So you know, have neat features when you're turning it. So I don't know, anybody that's owned a Nintendo DS knows about how that can work. Yeah, so the Twopane view. The Twopane view is a control that started its life out over in the UWP WinUI world, and we've effectively copied the API verbatim, and then it works cross-platform, which is nice. So it's kind of a neat control regardless. So like even if you're not using the Duo, it's a really neat adaptive layout control. So you could even use it, say, on UWP. If you want your app to, if you want to be able to shrink your app or grow your app and have it sort of do different layout positions. Yeah, so you can kind of see this is basically two different views. You have the left view here and the right view on the Twopane view. When it's a Surface Duo, it positions that content successfully on either side, which is nice. So yeah. So it's a nice way to just Twopaneify your apps. So as a kind of a quick demo here, let me show. I have a device. I have the Duo device here. Here we go. Yeah. So I think this app is still set up to work as far as like the Duo stuff. So this is kind of one of the things, this is kind of one of the addition points of Shell as well, is kind of being able to influence your app layout. So like one thing here you'll notice, watch this. If I span it to the middle, you'll see that the flyout now takes up that whole left part of the page here. And then here's my content here. So that's that idea of sort of being able to do like a hierarchical navigation pattern if you need to. Yeah, so you can just do this, and it pivots between the two different concepts. And so it's neat because you can really easily, a lot of this stuff is Visual State Manager enabled, which is really helpful. So you can basically do things like, yeah, so there's all these kind of different Visual State Manager points here. So this was a lot of cool stuff Javier added. Basically, the state triggers are part of Forms core. So there's a lot of different state triggers you can use, like orientation and various other things. But we built on top of that to add dual screen specific ones. So this is a kind of a cool one because it's a span mode state trigger. So what it's doing is it's trying to detect, it's detecting when the app goes to wide mode. So that's kind of one of the terms. Like when you're across the screen like this is wide mode, and then when it's in more of a vertical position, it's tall mode. Yeah. So basically, what this is doing is it's setting flyout width. So flyout width is a new property that should come in 5.0, where you can influence the width of this flyout. And then here, this is setting it in the locked position. So basically, yeah. So yeah, so that's kind of letting you set up the different positions. And then let's see. Let me kind of push this to here. Hopefully this is still in a decent enough state since I was just kind of editing through it. Let's see, any questions come through yet at all, Javier? Just while this is sort of launching.
Okay, so I think that you answered the question about buckets and in shell. Before that, not big question. Dan asking when will be print support for shell. Then the last question related with Surface Duo is if you are trying this app in a Surface Duo device or only on the emulator?
Both. Yeah, I don't have one that I can show now. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of why they gave me a device. So here, yeah, so this is basically, yeah. So this is basically what I use to sort of push these apps to the device and kind of test how it works. So yeah. And then, yeah, I mean, Prism support stuff. Yeah, I'm kind of I'm continuing chats with Dan. So that was what, say, like the async navigating was a big motivator, was just to have it, but was also to sort of help smooth over some of the integration, like Prism, so that they can kind of tap into these things, since a lot of the stuff that they do is async. So yeah, I don't know. Last we talked, we kind of have a good path forward, but these projects are always side projects, so it's a little bit tricky to get the time sometimes to work on them, right? But here's the content, just so you all don't think I'm making stuff up. Sometimes making this stuff swap out. I need to kind of make the swappable behavior work a bit better. But as you can see with the content, I don't remember where I put it on this view. Yeah, hello from the content. Here, see, you can kind of put whatever content you want there. So yeah, flyout content, that'll be a big helpful customization. And then, yeah, so what were you going to ask, Javier?
Yeah, we have a question from a stranger called David Ortinau. And the question is, what version of Xamarin.Forms has the shell that automatically adapts to Duo?
Yeah, so that's going to be, that comes with the flyout width stuff. So if the flyout width and height stuff all survives our 5.0 release for API changes and stuff, it'll be there. If it's not there, then it'll be part of the toolkit, basically. So yeah, I mean, the code's there, it works. But yeah, so that's kind of, that's the thing is right now is like what's going in the toolkit and what's not going in the toolkit. So, and then let's see if this works out. This is one of those things where you just kind of try something, but you haven't necessarily tried it on a demo. So thanks for taking my question. Anytime, David. Let's see. All right, cool. So this was kind of just a quick thing to show. Yeah, so as you can kind of see, you have the dual screen here. And you can see that the About page, for example, doesn't necessarily contain itself. So let's see if I can shift this to a two-pane view so you can kind of see how this works. Let's see if this one. So you can basically take the whole thing with pane 1. You can move everything into here. Hopefully this just works since I haven't figured anything I haven't tested myself that's on the demo. There you go. Cool. See, it just sort of maps itself over to the page here. Oh, and then let's try this. Let's see if this works. I haven't actually tried this either. We can see the monkey is stuck under the hinge. Oh, poor sad monkey. Let's see. Let's give the monkey a dual screen. Let's see if this just works out all right here. Again, always fun doing things you've never scripted on the demo just to see if it works. Let's see if it works there. Oh, there we go. See, it moved it over now to the left side. So it's by default going into pane 1. And I think, yeah, okay, because the image is stretching itself out. I was just kind of trying to think how this works. So like another thing, let's see, I'm just kind of thinking through scenarios here where you can sort of show some of the idea here. So for example, here I've put a stack layout around it. Let's see, kind of does the feature that I was hoping. All right, this might not work how I wanted to, but we'll see. There we go. Yeah, so the idea here basically is that it's you can kind of put anything inside a two-pane view. It's sort of like you can either use a dual screen info or you can put it inside a dual screen and two-pane view. Basically a two-pane view, if you put it around any control, it's going to basically make sure that it's going to make sure that it kind of avoids the hinge. So you can see there that it's automatically kind of positioning it outside of the frame of the hinge. So it's kind of, if you have content you know that's going to be on the hinge, you can put it in a two-pane view. So it sort of lets you do, yeah. And then like Dave is saying, for UX, you probably want to have all this. So that's the other thing too, is that's what starts to happen. So a lot of things sort of start to evolve from this, is that you can kind of keep going with this idea, right? So now that you have the pages, now that we have our template here with our tab view, make sure this is the right template. Yes, okay. We can go here. We can set this up as a two-pane view as well. Two-pane view, pane 1. Like so. And then where's our tab view? Our tab view's here. Did I type these out right? Ah. what happens when you don't have enough space. You get lost in the things. All right, let's see if this survives being saved. Oh yeah, this is actually being stretched across the whole bottom of the screen. So that's probably why it's staying safe here. Yeah, so that's, is that, all right, yeah. So that's kind of one of the things, where this will sort of help enable more is being able to, I wonder if that's just because of the way let me rerun that real quick. But yeah, so I mean, that's kind of the idea of where it's going, is being able to, be able to do any of these sort of cross-platform features, and then easily apply them across any of the devices. So we'll see if this works how I want it to with the TabView. I thought I had this in code working, but maybe not.
Shane, while that's compiled, left only 5 minutes. So
okay, cool. Yeah, all right, so that's something to look at. Thanks, David. He's always good at thinking those extra scenarios to make sure that they kind of work through. So yeah, in theory, the tab view would sort of kind of show on the one screen. But yeah, so that's kind of what happens with the tab bar template stuff. Cool. All right, well, yeah, that's all. That's basically the stuff I had. And then I figured, if I ended early, I would just show pictures of my cat with the Duo, because everyone likes pictures of cats and Duos. There's the other cat. Right, so that's basically, yeah, so that's what I have for MonkeyConf.
Super awesome. I'm really excited to combine some stuff from the TabViews and share and start thinking in new possibilities. So yeah, everything is really cool. Let me see if we can gain a couple of minutes to receive more questions. The first one is from David. How tough cat to say Maui?
Yeah, actually, I'm sure if he was here, this one says Maui really loud, usually at like 4 in the morning, reminding me about it. So he's ever persistent about making sure that Maui's on my mind. Yeah, try the Surface Duo. Yeah, it's neat. I like the Surface Duo. It's surprisingly thin, which is cool, and then it's really yeah, and it's nice to hold. I like holding it like this. I like putting it like this and then putting it on my stomach and reading the top part. I call that otter mode. So I don't know if that's official, but I call it otter mode.
So let's go for the last question from Pedro Jesus. Are we able to customize the top parts as well?
Yes. I was working on the bottom stuff. I had the top ones working at one point. I tried to pull those in like 10 minutes ago to see if they kind of survived a bunch of my changes, but they alas did not. So that code is written. So the end goal here is basically that you'll be able to customize top and bottom. And it'll be the control will be oh, I know why this isn't working. Yeah, okay, but yeah, sorry. It will be responsive to the layout concept also, is sort of the idea. So like on the tab view, I don't remember if you remember the position. Somewhere in here, there's a placement. I don't remember the API name. There you go. Yeah, bottom, top, center. So the idea is that these will be sensitive to those property setters. So at that point, you'll be able to move it kind of to the top and the bottom. So that's a big thing Javier and I are talking about also, is basically telling the tab view, hey, here's the whole content area that you're allowed to exist in. And then at that point, the tab view will just kind of position itself based on those constraints. So yeah, the placement is a big thing we're working for.
Definitely, I want to include that in the community toolkit. And last question. Can we customize the flyout positioning to the right?
Let's see. So you can with the that needs to be fixed on ish. So you can set the flow layout direction, which goes for the LTR stuff, but that might be a little too heavy for what you're wanting because that's kind of switching the whole thing to LTR. It works on iOS, but it needs to be fixed on Android. So you can basically set like shell to be RTL and then everything goes RTL. But that's a good point of being able to set that on the flyout as well. So yeah, that's the width and the height are kind of one of those things of sort of expanding on the customizability of the flyout, and same with like the content stuff. So yeah, being able to lay that on the right, I know is something we're looking for, and then also sort of just generally seeing what we can do with the flyout for Maui stuff. So yeah.
Cool. So you did. You answered all the questions, and very nice session, as always saying. Thanks so much for being part of the MonkeyConf 2020. And see you later or in the next event or wherever. But thanks for joining.
Yeah, and then so yeah, gracias por ver mi presentación. Espero que todos tengan felices y seguras fiestas.
Wow. That's too much. I don't know if you have learned it, if you was reading, but, but it was great.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, everybody, and have a good rest of your MonkeyConf.
Bye, Shane.
Bye.
Thanks so much.